Cody in the morning. WSM. This is Coffee, Country, and Cody.
Just like members of the crew of the International Space Station, we're still here. We're right here where we were when we last saw you. The Acuff House Studio on the Grand Ole Opry
We have on
Plaza.
different clothes. That's good.
Bless their hearts. They're stuck up there. They seem to be taking it well, but I think they have requested an encore appearance at the Grand Ole Opry since they didn't know they were going to be gone this long.
Now you know why I pack the way I do. This is what would happen to me. I would be going for a 3-day cruise around the earth, and they're like,
3-hour tour.
sorry, you're going to be here for another 6 months. And I'll be like, see, this is why I brought 10 pairs of shoes.
And what's funny, if there's funny in it, is that they're sending another. It's what would you call that vessel that's going after them?
Like supply vessel or something?
Yeah, to pick them up. So it's like, they're going to pull up to the bus stop.
It's
they're going to hop
Uber?
in.
It's an
and
Uber.
They're coming back.
Cool. Yeah,
But,
it's a lift.
Yeah, Boeing.
Not looking good.
Yes, the integrity rating there has really plummeted of late.
It's not good.
You're on coffee. And I think they knew when they left, didn't they, that they were having some problems, or when they first got there and docked or something?
I don't know, but Boeing, I think, built the bad year blimp this year.
Oh, man. It's not good.
That's
Not
Zach
good.
Bennett. That's Kelly Sutton. I'm Bill Cody. Annie Nye is our studio director. And I see the bearded one, the Tolstoy of the booth in there, Joel Wilson.
Yeah.
He is in master control. He's filling in this morning for Jeff Roberts. And we're going to the Grand Ole Opry House here in just a little bit with Kip Moore doing Sweet Virginia. David Nail is coming to see us this morning. All things old or new again. In this case, the song, his new single, is 20 years old.
I saw
It's got
that.
a great backstory to it.
Isn't that
And
cool?
so we caught up with David, and then a little later on, the new EP, The Way We Started, is out now from Sarahbeth Taite.
Oh, I'm so happy for her.
Me too.
I love her so much. We've got a great morning. It's going to be good. Hey, coming up, entertainment headlines. We're telling you all about Drew Baldridge making history. Speaking of people who you can get behind and root for, I love him so much. So he has made history, first time, #1. I'll give you all the details on that. Plus, bell bottoms on our naked statue, just in time to celebrate Lainey Wilson's release of Whirlwind. That's coming up as well. And don't worry, we've got all the information on the new album from Mickey Guyton, Burning the House Down. So stay tuned.
Reminded of the great Louis Grizzard, who said, you know the difference between naked and naked? Naked is when you don't have any clothes on. Naked is when you don't have any clothes on and you're up to something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand that.
As in, Darlene is naked. Good morning from Nashville.
More Coffee, Country, and Cody is on WSM.
So we just saw and heard Kip Moore, Sweet Virginia, from the stage of the Grand Ole Opry, country music's most famous stage, the one that made country music famous, closing in on 100 years. October, we turn 99, and the countdown continues. The only thing better than that stage is to sit on a stage made of ryman wood in the new Acuff House Studio on the Grand Ole Opry Plaza.
It's pretty
and
sweet.
Listen to David Nail play and sing. How about that?
Yeah, thanks for
I
coming
could think
in.
of some better things. If they were my ears. I certainly wish that you hadn't told me that prior to me singing at 8 o'clock in the morning, because I get nervous enough at the real thing, and now that I know that this is technically the real thing, it's like early in the morning singing at the Ryman. I mean, I can't think of two more nerve-wracking things to add to the equation.
It's fine. Well, I think we have to really preface it, because if you look at it, I mean, that wood is very well loved. It's kind of chewed up, and if you don't know that is historic Ryman wood, then you would just be like, oh, they ran out of money. And put
I
that
hope
thing
it's
together.
kind wood.
It is. It is. It's got good vibes.
Well, I mean, listen, the Leuven brothers, they've rolled around on that. Webb Pierce. I could go on. Farron.
If this doesn't end well, I may whirl around on it as well. If you see me rolling around on it, you know that it didn't go too well.
Oh, man. How have you been?
I've been great. It's been a fast summer. The kids are back in school, and
So what was that like when you left the house this morning?
it was pretty calm. You know, I was surprised both kids got up on their own. My son's really good about getting up and getting in the shower himself and getting dressed, and my oldest daughter, Lily Kate, I told them they may be listening, so I told them I'd tell them hello. I set up the radio before I left so that they could hear me give them a shout out. They should probably be leaving the house any minute right now to walk to school.
And you normally walk with them. You said you can walk. I
normally do. It's something that I really enjoy. One of the, if not the biggest reason why we moved to that neighborhood was the appeal of having the school so close to home, being able to walk them to school every day. And some days I don't know if it's because they see some friends and they're embarrassed of me, but sometimes they say, okay, you can turn around and go by, and then some days they want me to walk them all the way. So
sure.
they're 8-year-old teenagers already.
Well, you know who else just recently was in studio? BJ Barham from American Aquarium was here, and he walks their child to school.
Yeah.
They live close, and he said he looks, when he's off the road and he's home, it's his favorite thing in the world to do, and then goes back in the afternoon. And then they walk back home.
Exactly. Yeah, same thing. And you dodge all the golf carts and all the cars that are coming in to pick them up. But it's I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just because I grew up in a small town, and I'd say probably 2 or 3 out of the 4 or 5 schools I went to, I walked myself to school until I had a driver's license. And then even then, I didn't really need to necessarily drive. Then it was just a cool thing to do. But it's something that I enjoy, and especially being gone all the time and missing out on so many things. It's I always go back, and my wife asked me, she says, well, what was the conversation like? And I said, well, they're usually pretty interesting, just the random things that they can come up with on that 5 to 7 minute walk.
I always feel like driving mine to school, we don't get a whole lot of chatter because she's still real sleepy. But on the way home from school, that's where we get the big, she's spilling the tea. Is that kind of the same when y'all are walking home?
Well, my oldest daughter, Lily Kate, she's not shy. She wakes up just guns a-blazing, talking 90 miles an hour. She called me out yesterday. She goes, all you do is say I talk too much. And I said, well, I rarely get a moment to add any thoughts to what you talk about, because you go from one thing to the next, and it's not really a discussion. It's just more of a speech on your part.
I like that.
It's a monologue.
It's a monologue.
Exactly.
Do you have
dialogue?
It's
a monologue.
It really
Do you have her in theater yet? Because that would be really an easy transition.
It'd be difficult. She'd want to read all the lines. She'd want to play all the parts. It'd be a one girl show.
I love that.
Well, you're rocking Texas Longhorn gear this morning. Was that just a spur of the moment choice, or do you think these things through before you pick your cap?
I didn't realize that we were in such a fancy studio these days, or I would have probably combed my hair this morning. But one of my best friends in the world for the last 10 or so years is a guy by the name of Jim Schlossnagle, and he's the head baseball coach at the University of Texas. This is his first year.
Formerly at Texas A&M.
Yeah, it was very controversial.
Oh boy, was it ever!
It was very controversial, and but he's happy and excited. And I told him, I actually texted him this morning on my way into town. I said, well, normally when I go to this place, I'm usually pretty worked up, and it's early in the morning, so I hope this hat of yours that you sent me's got a little good luck in it, because I'm going to need it. He just texts back, hook 'em,
It goes from gig 'em to hook 'em.
That's the only thing they can say is those little taglines, You rarely get much of a, inspirational text. It's just hook 'em or, the thumbs up back when he was at A&M, but... It was right there at where we hang our keys, and so I just kind of grabbed it as I went out the door.
Well, I'm always curious how these kinds of friendships become reality in a person's life, in a celebrity's life. What's the case there?
The classic case of back in the early days of Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days. I was playing TCU. He was the head coach there. And Tim Corbin, the coach at Vanderbilt, saw that I had tweeted about being at Texas Christian University, and so he texted me and he said, I'm actually really good friends with the head coach there. They're playing there this weekend. You should go to a game. And so I love baseball. It's one of my biggest passions, and so I was like, sure. And I'm usually pretty shy. Looking back, it's kind of random that I chose to just walk up to a baseball park with no connections or no sort of introduction. But I walked down to the field, and he introduced himself, and he knew some of my music, and we hit it off and have just gotten closer and closer throughout the years. And I tell people all the time, it's baseball is one of those things that I loved so much and played so much, and there was such a huge part of my life where that was something that I thought I would pursue, whether playing or coaching or whatever. And it's funny how the two have sort of run parallel. Because of the music thing, it's opened all these doors athletically for me to get to know some people that play or coach across the board, whether it's professional or in college. But he's a really good friend. He's just a stand-up guy, and I know the people in College Station, Texas probably disagree with what I'm saying right now, but I've just learned a lot about being a father and what it takes to be a professional and work hard from just watching how much he takes pride in his being a parent and working hard.
All right. Why? I asked that.
He just poses it.
I asked that in advance of the new single, Why? Why is Why 20 years old and your new single?
Well, it's a song that I wrote actually on the first ever writer's trip that I ever went on. We went on this little, I guess, sort of big houseboat kind of thing down in the Gulf, and I had never been on one of those. I only knew one person on the entire writer's trip, and so for the most part I stayed in my little quarters, my little room on the boat, and hid out because I was terrified to work with all these people that I didn't know. I was 21, maybe 22 at the time, and the last night we were out there, I just went back to the quarters and just started writing down these words, and sort of had a idea of what the melody would be like in my head, but it was late at night. I didn't want to be just blasting, singing at 10 or 11 o'clock at night while people were sleeping, and I woke up the next morning, and then I was getting ready to make my first record. I was on Mercury Records at the time, and Keith Stegall was my producer, and I'll never forget, before we went to make the record, we had I probably had 25, 30 songs that I had written over the course of that year, and he had me sit down and he wanted me to rank them all 1 to 5 before we decided what we were going to record. And so I was telling the story the other night. I said I always felt like Why was a 5. But I had never really thought about comparing it to the other songs, and so I really wanted to record Why. So I didn't want I thought, man, there can't be any other 5s, or I might not be able to record it. And so the whole time I'm ranking the songs, I'm like, well, I really like this song, but I guess it's technically a 3 if Why is a 5, and so it was just really traumatic for me to sort of hate on my own personal music because I was so passionate about this song. And so we released a song called Memphis first, and then Why was going to be the second song after Memphis failed miserably. And then Keith left the label and I left afterwards, so it never came out. And it was just one of those songs that sort of, I guess, haunted me for the last 20 years of just like, man, enough people would ask me about it occasionally that it would just drive me crazy, and I knew that we were sort of in that time period of, if I don't ever record this, I'm never going to record it. And so we started it in January, and then I sort of forgot about it, and then back in July we sort of decided to finish it and rush it out there, and the response has been great. It's that you find out after something like this, there's a lot more people that knew about the song than you ever imagined. So hopefully they weren't too set on that version. I really feel like we did a great job with this new version, and it's certainly a little bit more up to date with where I am and how I sound now.
This is Coffee, Country, and Cody.
We continue our visit with David Nail. We're going to follow up on Why. He's going to play live for us, but that was born out of depression and anxiety and issues that are at the forefront of that song.
I think, when I was 21 years old, like when I wrote that, it was one of those where you just sort of wrote the song and were in the song, and then after the fact, when you listen to it back, you're like, okay, whoa, I don't know where this is coming from or what exactly this stirs from, especially at that young of an age, because it wasn't until probably a decade later that I sort of tried to begin to figure those things out on my own. So it was just one of those things that, when you're writing a song, you want it to be the best possible song it can possibly be, and not get too wrapped up into the personal aspect of it. And I feel like that's something that I've always had the ability to do, is sort of just let's make the song as good as it possibly can be. Because I think sometimes when you start wondering about, okay, what's mom and dad going to think when they hear this, or what's so-and-so going to, is so, you know, when I was first married, you know, my wife would ask me all the time, well, who's that song about? You know? So I sort of had to forget.
Right.
I sort of had to forget that conversation was going to happen later as I'm writing the song, and just try to make it the best possible song that it could be, and then kind of deal with the emotional aspect of it later. But like I mentioned earlier, you know, it was just one of those songs that I was always super proud of. I wrote it by myself. You know, I think when you write those first few songs by yourself, you know, before you start getting set up with co-writers all the time, and you know, so often I think when you start writing with other people, they sort of become a little bit like a crutch, and you can kind of throw ideas off of them, and when you're writing stuff by yourself, you know, you sort of have to just kind of be convinced that it's as best as it can be, and you don't need somebody else's help to sort of, you know, make sure it's good or not. And
how'd you choose Aubrey? Aubrey Sellers, of course, is the daughter of Leanne Womack.
Well, one of my favorite songs that I ever recorded was a song called Brand New Day. It was on the I'm a Fire record. And Aubrey is the stepdaughter of Frank Liddell, who produced those records, and then the daughter of Leanne Womack. And so she had just started singing then, and she sang on this song called Brand New Day. And you know, Frank just sort of did it without talking to me, and I remember hearing it for the first time, and I had never really heard a whole lot of her material, and it just blew me away. And Brand New Day is one of those songs that was never on the radio, but people ask me about it all the time. We played it live off and on, and so I really wanted there to be a female voice on it. On the original, it was just sort of your standard background singer, you know, in Nashville, and I've just always been a fan of hers. I felt like in my heart of hearts she'd agree to do it. And so it was just one of those things where we threw the line out there and hoped that she would accept. And then I just feel like to have that female voice on it, given the fact of the topic of conversation and just the fact that it's sort of not exactly a conversation, but you get, you know, sort of what the female is possibly thinking from that angle. That it would be a little bit more powerful than if I were to do it, or a friend of mine would have done it. And so really nice of her to accept to do it.
Are you ready to play? You've got that guitar. We want to put you to work.
I think I am. I've always struggled with what to do, and this is probably a recipe for disaster to try to do this, but you know, normally I would always probably do Red Light or something, but one of my least favorite things to be asked is, and it's because when you first move to town, you all you do is covers. You sing cover gigs, you know, and then all anybody wants to ask you is, but well, what do your songs sound like? You know, do you write any of your own songs? And then it becomes such a big deal for you to write your own songs, and then. So you write your own songs, you go out and you play your own shows, and then people are like, well, play a Freebird, play a cover. And you're like, well, I thought I was supposed to learn my own songs, you know?
Well, as Don Schlitz famously says at the Grand Ole Opry, the phrase that songwriters hear most often is, so what else you got?
Yeah, exactly. What's next?
Yeah.
That's what I always get is what's next? Hey, I just came up with a song Friday. Well, what's next? Well, today's Monday, you know? Give me a little grace. But when my father, I remember this lady asking me one time, you know, what I sounded like, and I said, well, my father once told somebody I sound like a cross between Garth Brooks and Kenny Loggins. And I remember the person said, well, we already have a Garth Brooks and a Kenny Loggins. What's David Nail sound like? And I went, that's a good question. And so I didn't have any friends back then. I just moved to Nashville, and so I went to Walmart. I got one of those old school flat cassette players where you could hit play and record yourself on old cassette tapes. And I just started singing every song that I possibly knew, and I started singing this one. And so, you know, 5-6 years into my career, when people started asking me to do covers and I didn't know how to do any covers, I just randomly pulled this out of my rear end one morning, and so that's what I'm going to do this morning.
Coffee, Country, and Cody from our Acuff House studio, Grand Ole Opry Plaza, Nashville, Tennessee. And Kelly Sutton, is Monday after a long weekend, and there's a lot to catch up on in your world.
Yeah, we had a lot of news, especially like last night as I start looking for stuff. I'm like, ooh, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. And couple of my favorite people that we're going to be talking about as well. Let's start with Drew Baldridge. Congratulations to Drew Baldridge, making history. He has the #1 song in country music. It's called She's Somebody's Daughter. But here's the really, really cool part about this. So Drew years ago was signed to a label and did the whole label deal thing. And then it just, didn't work out. And so he kind of went off and he's been doing his own thing. He is an independent artist. This was an independent release, self-released. And it went to #1. It is history because no one has ever done a self-released independent song and have it go all the way to #1 on the charts. Here's what he had to say about it on social media. Take a listen.
Hey guys, it's Drew here, and we've officially did it. We've officially made history. We're the first artist to ever independently get their first #1 song, and I just can't believe it. I've been sitting over here on just this picnic table and just crying a little bit, shedding some tears, just thinking about the journey of how long it's taken to get here. We've been in Nashville for 13 years, and I felt like everybody was kind of giving up on what we were doing, which is fine, but the whole community, country radio, y'all have rallied behind us, and to think now we have the #1 song in the whole country.
There you go. #1 song in the whole country for Drew Baldridge. And it just couldn't happen to a nicer guy. We're so happy for him. Congratulations, Drew.
I feel a tractor upgrade coming on.
I sure hope so. He's playing all around, and he's playing at the Opry on Saturday night.
Yep.
So he'll be there Saturday night. Congratulations to him. All right. Well, if you've been to Nashville, maybe you've been around Music Row, you've done one of the hop-on, hop-off bus tours, or you've just been driving yourself around, you know that we have a roundabout right near Music Row, 16th, 17th, 18th Avenues. So if you come up to Mumbry and you go around the circle, and we have this big, beautiful statue. It's called La Musica, and it's right in the middle. When it was unveiled, it was affectionately known as the Naked Statue because they are naked, and that's how we look at it in the South.
Naked.
Yeah. So, nope, that's true. Okay, so the Naked Statue that's in the middle is currently not naked anymore. Look at this. The Naked Statue has bell bottoms on. Now, to give you some perspective,
does Lainey Wilson's impact know no boundaries?
I know somebody from her label obviously has done this, and then you can see the little yard signs like every 10 feet has a yard sign that says Whirlwind, which is the new Lainey album that's out. But I just thought this was such a cute stunt. To put into perspective, those are massive. I don't know how tall each one of the figurines is, but they are not like proportionate to humans. They're massive. So whoever made these bell bottoms specifically had some gigantic bell bottoms.
They had to take measurements for sure, didn't they?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to say they're 8 feet tall, maybe each.
Yeah, at least
8,
and probably
maybe 9.
That centerpiece is 20 feet tall.
Oh, sure. So if you are in town and you get a chance, go see the Naked Statue, no longer naked, with the bell bottoms on. Speaking of Lainey Wilson,
baby's got her bell bottoms on. Where's Mel McDaniel when we need him?
I love it. Speaking of Lainey Wilson releasing Whirlwind, it came out on Friday. So excited about this brand new album, 14 tracks on it. She said it really is a testament of where she has been because she wasn't home when she wrote this. Take a listen to what she
When I was writing this record, I was nowhere near home. It was like the busiest season of my life, and probably the busiest season it will ever be ever again. And so writing this record and making this record made me feel at home, and I feel at home on the back of a horse. I do. You put me on the back of a horse and just let me ride, and there's something so healing about that. So I hope when people see the cover and also listen to the record, I hope they feel at home.
There you go. That was nice. There it is. It's the horse. And they did this really cool sand sculpture for her. She's been on the West Coast. So LA, Salt Lake, and Boise is where she was over the weekend. She's going to be hanging on the West Coast for another couple of days. But if you get a chance, head over to her socials and check out all the fun stuff. She was flying in a helicopter. They had her on the beach. She was landing all over the place just to celebrate Whirlwind. She was basically in the middle of a whirlwind. So it's a great album. Love all of the songs on there, but specifically for me, the very first song, which is Keeping Up with Jones. It's just so well written. So take a listen to that. Also, congratulations. Mickey Guyton has announced that she has a new album coming out. It's coming to us in September, and it's House on Fire. Just the name of the album. She's not setting anything on fire, I promise. 12 tracks on this follow-up to her 2021's Remember Her Name album. She said, you know what? I'm just really proud to be a country artist. I love watching people fall in love with this genre, knowing that I've been here and I've loved it since I was a little girl. And people are finally catching on. Amen to that. So House on Fire is available for pre-save right now. CMT On Tour is where you can find her. It's going to be CMT On Tour presents Mickey Guyton starting September 18th.
That's Kelly Sutton Entertainment. This is Coffee, Country, and Cody. Back to wrap it up on television after a break.
Coffee, Country, and Cody.
And add Sarahbeth Taite to that mix again, but for the first time from our new Acuff House studio on the Grand Ole Opry Plaza. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here.
Coffee going down good?
This is actually water.
Yeah.
I wish so bad that it was coffee, but
You're not a coffee drinker?
I'm
Well-
on baby number 2, and so
Oh.
I've got caffeine. I get like 1 coffee a day, and I really make sure
It counts.
that it's,
So
it counts.
you make it like a dessert late in the day
Exactly,
so you can look
exactly.
forward to it?
It's my afternoon pick me up. I gotta wait till about.
And how do
2
you take your
p.m. when
coffee?
I'm crashing. Lattes usually, and that's why too the espresso has so much more caffeine.
Yeah.
Like, I wait for my 1 latte.
That's
a day.
okay. You
But-
get that. You get well, and
But
it's
the water
funny.
in the mug is making me
You
feel
feel
like it's coffee.
like a part of it. So, baby number 2, congratulations, by
Thank
the
you
way.
so much.
Are
Thank
you
you.
going to find out, boy or girl?
We did find out it's another girl.
Okay.
We're starting a girls club.
And
Okay.
baby number 1 is how old now?
She is going to be 2 at the end of October. So she is, 21 months, 22 months?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So-
And how's that?
It's wild.
I
We
know that
are
feeling.
tired, we are busy, and yeah, she's just like it's her world, and we're just living in it. So
Sure.
she runs the show.
Does
So.
she understand that baby sister's coming? I mean, as much as she can.
She has absolutely no idea.
Okay.
So
Ooh,
and
her
it's-
world's about
it's
to be
funny
rocked.
because we try to tell her, but she just she's really not tracking. She just she got a baby cousin over the summer.
Okay.
So we're practicing on baby cousin is the guinea pig. We're like, be gentle, be gentle.
All right. So baby number 1, name?
Isla.
Okay. Baby number 2, got a name?
No name thus far.
Okay.
Sometimes you don't want to say it though, because you're going to get so many people giving you opinions. I still remember when we were trying to figure out Reese's name, I thought, I'm not sharing this yet because I love my family, but they're also opinionated Midwesterners that are going to be like, whoa, you can't give her that name. So-and-so's friend's cousin's neighbor had that name and she was rotten.
This
you know?
is a great Charlie Mattos
Exactly.
story. Charlie being from a Portuguese family who would normally be here. He's got the morning off. But Charlie's aunt was like, Jackson? What about Raul or Albino?
Albino. That was what she said. Give him a good strong name. Albino. Right. Exactly. So maybe you just keep that for just you guys.
Yeah, whenever we figure it out, this is good advice.
Well, you have figured out how to finish this album, this EP.
Oh man, somehow.
The way we
did
started.
it.
How long ago did you start on this?
Oh
to
my
see the
gosh.
reality?
I've been trying to think of like the exact date technically, but I think it's been about a year and a half.
And just the other day, right where you are, Stephanie Chapman and her husband Nathan came to see us, and they played and
My
sang for us.
favorites, yeah.
Nathan Chapman, famously with Taylor Swift in the early years, those early albums, and with so many other people along the way. He is just so respected and revered.
Yep.
How did you wind up working with him? How did you become friends and colleagues?
Well, we wrote a song, which is usually how most things start. My friend and co-writer Parker Welling set us up to write with Nathan. She and Nathan have worked together in the past, and she was just helping me kind of, you know, without a publishing deal, without a record deal, just kind of broaden my writing circle and really help me kind of dive in. I was 3 months postpartum. I had no idea where my next steps were going to take me, but I knew that I had a lot of new stories to tell and a whole new perspective. And she just kind of dove in with me, and we sat down with Nathan one day, and I mean, really just had no idea where that connection was going to go, but we wrote a song that we all fell in love with, and I'm going to play it for you guys this morning.
That's so good.
But it really just started just a great working relationship, and the three of us decided. Nathan called about, I think a week or two later, and wanted to produce a few more sides and go in and do a project. So here we are.
That's so good. And it's a testament to who you are too, because, you know, when you have people that come in together, it is kind of like that weird first date energy. Like, I don't know you, and now we're about to get really deep really fast.
Yes.
But the fact that you completely clicked together and that he wanted to help produce, that says a lot about you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was very nervous to obviously it's Nathan Chapman.
Right.
I was freaking out. And Parker too. I mean, Parker and I had been friends before, but writing with her too is also a dream come true. And so
are you a part of that Smack Songs family now?
No, I'm not.
Shane McAnally, because she is, right?
She is actually at Home Team. So she's at Thomas Rhett's publishing company. And so Parker's just been a fan and a friend for so long, but we had only written, I think, maybe one song before, a couple songs before. So this day that I'm going in to write with the both of them, I was like pinching myself and nervous and trying to come, you try to come into a write with some like genius idea for the day, and you're scrolling through your notes like, what am I going to bring in to these, incredibly talented people? And I thought, well, this idea is maybe like the most honest. It's like the title that I'd had in my notes that I like didn't want to talk to anybody about. Oh. And I thought, well, that would be a good place to start, is just to be really vulnerable in a song. And so we wrote about a night that my husband and I broke up long before we were engaged and married. We had, a rough patch, as people do. And we broke up for about an hour in a parking lot. And I said, what if we write this? And they were like, we have never heard that before. Let's do it.
Oh, that's perfect.
Was your husband okay with that when you told him what you had written that day?
I did give him a heads up before I went in.
Oh, you did?
I did. Well, I was probably like running things by him, because I was like, okay, I think I'm going to bring in this. I think I'm going to, he's my biggest fan, so we always chat. But I was like, okay, this is what I'm bringing it in, and I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm going to tell him all the dirty details. So.
Well, as Bill Anderson says, when you don't bring something and your co-writer doesn't bring something, it's called a co-stare. Not a co-write. It's a co-stare.
And we all know there's plenty of those.
That's awesome.
All right, give us a Butterfly Boots backstory before we play it. We're going to do that first.
That's actually another song that I wrote with Parker and Nathan both. So this was once we were a little bit farther in, knowing that we were writing towards a project together. And this song was just, I think Parker came in with this title, and it was just perfect. We were really leaning into a 90s country vibe. And I know everybody says that they love that golden era of country music, but we just don't. I just feel like there's just not a ton of songs these days that actually sound like it. And so we really leaned heavily into that. And I just think it's so great for girls and women to have a song. We used to have like Wide Open Spaces and Suds in the Bucket, and we just had all these great songs about, I don't know, growing up, coming of age, chasing your dreams, all these things. And so we tried to fit all that into a 2024 version.
Coffee, country, and Cody.
New EP, The Way We Started. Sarahbeth Taite is our special guest, and you guys were discussing what she and Carly Pierce have in common when it comes to album art.
I know. This is pretty special. So we were just looking at the picture, and I said, that is gorgeous. Where did you take that? And you shared with me
that the flowers are from Hobby Lobby. And the sky is also not real in the photo, but We did take it on a beautiful summer day in Tennessee, but you know.
Yeah, it's good. Well, I mean, Hobby Lobby apparently is the place to go if you're looking for something for your album cover, because Carly Pierce on her Hummingbird album cover, the hummingbird is actually a hummingbird on a stick that she got from Hobby Lobby, and somebody was shaking it up and down to make it look like it was flying.
I just can't stop picturing them waving that stick.
She was the one holding it too. Like if you
that's
look,
amazing.
that makes it even better, right?
It does.
Like she's kind of like looking a little bit to the side, but she had it in her other hand and was like shaking the bird up and down.
And the bird had to have glam.
Yes, the bird
was
did have glam.
Somewhat distressed.
They had to fluff it up a little.
The bird
she
had to
said.
have glam before it would have its picture taken.
So I'm just throwing
That's
this out.
incredible. She had to shake her own hummingbird.
She had to
for the
shake her
shoot.
hummingbird. But Hobby Lobby, if you're listening, you need to have some end cap displays. Sarabeth's album cover on one with the flowers underneath, and then Carly's on the other with the hummingbirds on a stick. I mean, it's smart marketing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we can say, here's how to recreate the look. the look for less.
Look for less. It's
Well,
perfect.
speaking of hummingbird, that hummingbird guitar looks good right
Beautiful.
there.
It is actually, thank you so much. It's actually not a hummingbird. It is a, J200?
Oh, it's beautiful.
And it looks like a hummingbird, except I don't have the actual birds on the pick guard. But
Hey, Carly Pierce is your hookup.
She
there you go.
is. Yeah, reach out.
Listen, I'm going to go get a hummingbird from Hobby Lobby and glue it on here and call it one.
If you go in there, the one in Franklin, she's probably there right now looking for the
Exactly.
next album covers, though.
I know.
Sarahbeth Taite, it's okay to break up as long as it's for an hour and you get a hit record out of it, right?
Exactly.
I don't know. Taylor's making it work for her, so
Yeah.
you can figure it out.
So Colby is your husband's name, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And immersed you in all things Kentucky, which is where he's from.
Exactly.
For a girl from
I am,
Fort Collins,
I am
Colorado.
married in. Yeah.
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 Married into the club.
So
Colt Club.
did I? Pretty close.
Whichever you want to call
Pretty
it.
close.
Yeah.
Were you 14 when you begged your parents to bring you to a songwriter's workshop in Nashville? Did I read that backstory?
I was, yeah. I really wanted to come to Nashville. I knew that this is where country music was happening. I knew this is where songwriting was happening. And I just said, I want to go. And they said, well, what are we going to do? Like, I guess we'll just take you for a trip. But, like, we don't really know how to... are you going to go and sit in a hotel room or what? Right. Can't get into the honky tonk, so what are we going to do? And so I remember just Googling my little heart out and finding NSAI, and I found a songposium that I could sign up for.
How about that?
And I think the first class that I took as a part of that week was called How to Get a Publishing Deal 101. And I ended up getting a publishing deal that week.
That week? Man, that's like a fast course.
At
I
14?
know. At 14.
Wow.
I didn't sign on the dotted line that week, but that's when I got the offer to keep coming back and keep writing, and we
Excuse
ended up
me,
signing
can I have my
deals.
parents look at this?
Right.
For real. My dad was reading books and, trying to figure out what we were doing. And,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. But you've always known that this is what you wanted to do.
Yeah. I really just fell in love with country music at an early age. And, Loretta and Dolly and Leanne Womack, and I was listening to Kitty Wells when I was 14. So I was like, get me to Nashville. I realized that, people were making a career and a living off of writing songs. And
So do you want to do a cover of Heartbreak USA this morning, or do you want to do something else from your album?
We could just listen. Yeah, have me on. We could just do a bunch of classics. That's really what I want to do.
Yeah. That's what we
Next
do.
time we'll plan on that.
Exactly.